Hello, it has been quite a long time since I've made a video, but I do have more things to say and more things to communicate to you. And with that said, this video is about communicating on the playa most effectively so that you can find your friends, your family, or people that you're trying to see. So a few things and a few ways that you could communicate. One is phones. A lot of people don't like to have their phones while on the playa, but I would encourage you to at least have it, for the most part on airplane mode with you, because there's added navigation using GPS and apps that I talked about in my previous video that discuss how you can navigate that are helpful. But to turn it on every once in a while to see if you have a text message from somebody that's also on the playa trying to find you can be important. Or at least one person that's designated if you're with a group of people to be able to do that. The issue is basically your phones don't always work. And sometimes your phones won't work at all. And this is still the case in 2017 and 2016. So this is a very updated version of this. They do put up cell towers, but they move them each year. So one year you may have good service, the next year you may not have any good service. Additionally, 2 years ago, I have Verizon, and 2 years ago it was pretty good. I was getting text messages, not all of the time, but most of the time I was getting them, and other people in my group were not. Fast forward to 2017, when I didn't get one text message until I left the playa, and everybody that was an AT&T user had good service and was able to communicate. So it also depends kind of on the provider and things like that on whether or not you're going to get service or not. So it's not a foolproof plan of a way to communicate at all times, and has a lot of downfalls too. I would also say that whenever you are sending somebody a text message, just like at any festival, and if you don't know this, this is a great thing, to add a timestamp of when you sent it, because sometimes people are going to get those text messages hours later. So you may be saying that you're at district at having a good time and you want them to meet you there, but they may get that 3 hours later when district's party isn't even happening anymore. So always putting a timestamp, and telling your location obviously too, and the coordinates. You can also try sending through just normal text messages rather than data. So if you're on an iPhone, that looks like using the green message versus a blue message, because it's more likely to go through as well. If you are going to try to use walkie-talkies, I don't know much about walkie-talkies, so I actually looked this up, because I do know that people attempt to use them. And this is what was said. If you have a cheap set, they aren't going to work well. There's too much chatter and there's not a large enough radius. If you're able to buy a set that has an extended battery life that you can keep on 24 hours a day with a far radius, it might work. But again, there's lots of chatter. And if you're going to do something like that, if you have set times of when you're supposed to communicate with others, like saying that you'll always check in at 4 on this particular channel, that's more likely to work. However, a lot of people discussed how their friends frequently forgot to do this and wouldn't check in with them at the time, and so then they were just kind of talking to nobody and not finding their friends. So, I mean, it is an option, but it sounds like it also has some drawbacks too. So what is more effective? One is getting a dry erase board or a chalkboard and attaching it to your RV or near your tent. And as long as people kind of know where you are, they can leave you messages. And like last year, I got a message that said, meet me at Skrillex at this time, yada, yada, yada. And so then I didn't even need to see that person. I just knew that that's where they were going to be. And then I could go find them at that time. It can also help with, messages of people being able to tell you that they did stop by and it was at this time, and just letting you know so you're not always looking. And also keeping track of people so that, you can feel safe with them. So people can, mark on the RV when they were last there, so that nobody's worrying about their whereabouts. So that can be beneficial, but definitely tie the marker or the string or the chalk to it, because that gets lost easily, and then people are running around trying to find something to write with. Other options are just duct tape and pieces of paper. Usually that ends up being the second line of communication. If somebody doesn't have a dry erase board, they'll kind of go around camp trying to find this. The issue is that people need to know where you're residing for this to be an effective way to communicate. That can be done by telling people, if you are aware that you're in a camp that has a designated space, if you tell them before they actually go out to the playa. So you can do that on Facebook messages or just messaging them independently. But if you're just going out to the playa and you're not in a camp, that's going to be a lot harder for people to know. If you can get out one text message that says the coordinates of your RV or your tent to others, then they can at least get to that place, and then they can start using that communication. You can also make plans ahead of time for different events or different parts of the day. So, writing on a message board or telling people that, we're always going to be at Robot Heart, our group of friends, or whoever is awake, at 7 a.m. on the left side near the front. And just create a space where, at least if people are there, they're always going to be in the same exact spot, no matter what. And if you don't see them, then they aren't there. So creating a spot that is designated for your group, which is helpful at any festival if there's multiple stages and things like that. And always having that plan. So it may be that even before you go, you just say, hey, like at any one of these stages, if we are there, we're going to always just go to the left and to the front. And if you see us, you see us. If you don't, we're probably not at that stage. That can be very helpful. Using Facebook group messages or Facebook, just the discussion board of your camp, can be helpful. A few people were able to at least send some messages out on the discussion board of our camp last year before losing service, with kind of where they were and things like that, so that we were aware of kind of what their coordinates were. So trying to shoot something out, the second you get there. And then at least the people that haven't shown up yet that still have service can see that and read that. Just honestly designating a time in the morning and at night where you might be at the RV, and kind of telling, these are what we call downtimes for most people at Burning Man, is 6 to 9 p.m. is a downtime, because you've already done all your exploring during the day, you're transitioning to nighttime, you're taking a nap, you're having dinner. So 6 to 9 is usually a good time slot to kind of designate hey, if we all are at the RV, it's probably going to be around this time. So if you're, running around and you want to find us, that might be the best time to try to figure that out. Also in the morning from about 8:30 to 11 a.m. is another good time slot, because if people have stayed out all night, Robot Heart does their large concert in the morning from sunrise for a few hours, but then everybody eventually needs to sleep sometime. So then they're usually back at the RV. So just talking about like those could be good times to re-meet up and recuperate and come back together. Using a totem. So a totem obviously comes from the term totem pole, but it's just a large device of your creation, which you can create on your own, of just a pole of some sort and something on the top of it that's fun and fancy or not, that you can hold at each of the concerts, or at least somebody that's with you in your group can hold for other people in your group to come find you guys at the concerts. So these look all different shapes and sizes. They can just be a piece of, like a broomstick with a teddy bear on top of it. It could be a broomstick with a, sign of SpongeBob SquarePants. It could be a lightsaber, although I would say that a lot of people use lightsabers, so definitely, try something different, or make it a little bit, a larger lightsaber, things like that. And then allow all of your group to see what your device is before you guys go out, or tell them or show them a picture before you guys go to Burning Man so that they can be looking for that at nighttime at the concerts to find your group. I would suggest adding lights to it if you are going to make one, because it's easier for people to see in the crowd. They're extremely beneficial. The only issue is that you have to have somebody that's holding it the whole time. So if it's really heavy, that can be a problem. But, if you take turns or if you make it more lightweight, then it's a really great way to communicate to your group of individuals where you guys are. All right. So the last part of this is, communication is lovely and wonderful. But the other part of this is that it's Burning Man. So part of me wants to say, who cares about communicating with everybody? Obviously, at some point, you want to be with your friends and you want to make great memories. But part of Burning Man is just living life and running into people and then being taken on an art car and going off on your own, walking away if you're getting anxiety or you need to go to sleep. You just need to also take into account that getting lost can be just as much fun. And sometimes communicating too much takes out the present-mindedness of this event. So, I encourage you to take time to have, special moments with the people you come with, but also take time to have special moments with strangers and special moments with yourself. And, that doesn't cause too much communication to have to occur. And it also takes away a lot of anxiety, because if you're constantly thinking that you need to be with your friends, you're constantly thinking that you need to find them, you're always going to be anxious, you're always going to be looking for them. If you can just take it in your heart that everything's going to be okay, everybody's where they need to be, and you guys have at least communicated that you're safe, you're going to have a much better time and you're going to be able to stay more present. So keep that in mind and enjoy the journey.